Southeast Mortgage, the official home loan lender of the Georgia Bulldogs, presents the official podcast of Dawgs on Demand on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. On today's program, we'll give you the latest news from the world of University of Georgia athletics and more. And now, from the broadcast studios of Dawgs on Demand, here's your host, Chris Hall.
Chris Hall here for Dawgs on Demand on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And, of course, our program presented by Southeast Mortgage, the official home loan lender of the Georgia Bulldogs. Good to have you with us on our program today. And it's a great joy to have with us today on our program, David Pollock. You know, David, I was thinking about how to introduce you, but, I was thinking you don't need to introduce Bugs Bunny. You would not have to introduce Darth Vader. So why would I have to introduce David Pollock, so well known to all Georgia Bulldog fans and college football fans? So welcome to our program. And how does it feel to be in the same category with Bugs Bunny and Darth Vader?
I can honestly say that's a first. I've never had that one before. I've never been associated with that, but good to be with you, brother.
Yeah, it's good to have you with us, of course. Three-time All-American at the University of Georgia, went on to the NFL. You've been with ESPN now. How long have you been with ESPN?
Shoot, I think about 15 years now.
Yeah.
Been doing the TV thing. Never thought I would do it, but I actually did dislike the media strongly when I was in college and I was in the NFL. So wasn't a huge fan of the media. So it's kind of crazy that I definitely turned into a media member and hopefully do it a little bit differently than the people that I didn't like.
Yeah. Well, you do a great job. In fact, my wife and I make her watch Game Day on Saturday mornings. Well, I don't make her, but I encourage her to watch Game Day on Saturday mornings. And I said, that when you come on, I say, that's David Pollock. He played for the Dogs. And she said, wow, he's good. In fact,
that's good.
Yeah, we took a vote between myself and her, and we decided that just right behind Lee Corso, you're the star of that the ESPN Game Day. So that's quite something, isn't it?
First of all, having Corso at the top is the right order.
Yeah.
Anybody who doesn't have Corso at the top is wrong. I mean, that dude is, he built the show into what it is.
Right.
He's so funny. He's a lesson in humility every week when I work with him, man. Such a good person, good to people. He hasn't been able to come this year as much. He's 87 and he's had some health issues, but I do think he'll be back this week. I hope he'll be back this week, and definitely look forward to having Coach back because he just brings an energy and a different level of fun. I remember all the time when I started, he'd be like, "Hey kid, stats are good. Cakes are good. Have fun." And he's like, "Listen, they're not going to remember who you pick, kid. Like, they don't remember that crap." I was like, I disagree with that because Georgia fans get pissed at me every time I pick against them.
Yes, they do.
They do. But no, I definitely think Corso, and then obviously Herbie, and what he means to the show and has for so long, and then Reese taking over for Fowler, 8 years ago or whatever it was, and the show being seamless. And this year, you can bring Des along the way too, and you bring Pat on this year and Jess Sims, and it continues to evolve, continues to morph, and it's like a traveling circus.
And it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to watch. And when we were traveling to maybe a Georgia game, it's fun to listen to on Sirius FM, and it's a lot of fun. It gets you ready for football on Game Day. So let's talk a little bit, if we can dive in here a little bit. First of all, about the University of Georgia. I know as a media guy, you have to be unbiased, and that's okay. You're supposed to be, look at it with that kind of eye. But we fans, we can be different. We can be homers, Yep. And I'm definitely a homer. But as you look at this University of Georgia team, I've tried to, just from the outside looking in, I've tried to evaluate this team. And I have to tell you, everything that I see and everything I can just see in my heart, I think this Georgia team is better than last year's Georgia team in a lot of ways. What do you think about that?
I might agree with you. I think offensively, I think they've already hit their stride. They already know that they have a quarterback that they're capable. They have a good system around Darnell and Brock Bowers, and so I think there's a lot more continuity with that. I don't I'm not ready to go there better yet. Especially when it comes to defensively, I think the numbers are great. I think Bullard and Starks, bring that 1-2 punch is a really good 1-2 punch, and I think the secondary is probably better than it was a year ago. But up front, that talent you had with Big Baby, with Jordan Davis and Devontae Wyatt and Trayvon Walker, and then you go to the linebackers with Nakobe and Quay, and I mean they're just. I think this unit is good, and I think the biggest compliment you can give to Georgia is how the heck do you do 15 draft picks, lose all that talent, come back this year, and the fact that me and you have to have this conversation about what team is better shows you how stupid it is in Athens. Yeah. I mean, it shows you how well Kirby's recruited. It shows you how well they coach. It shows you how disciplined they are. It shows you how tough they are. Like, you watch that Tennessee tape and you see Tennessee go against Georgia, and you marvel at the level of detail and the level of toughness and buy-in. It's just it's an unbelievable job. They've become the new Alabama. They've become the standard bearer in college football. And I think when you look at this year, can you go get another one? Like, because this team is actually kind of young. Yeah. I mean, you look at this team. Yeah. Defensively, you're breaking in basically everybody new except for. Obviously you have Jalen Carter, who was a freak show last year too, and you got Ringo on the outside, but you're breaking in a bunch of new guys, and you're really young, and you're still really, really good. So offensively, there's a lot of guys that are going to be back. I mean, you see Lab continue to make plays. Bauer's the most important piece probably on the team is going to be back, So I think it's a good thing to see if you're a Georgia fan that because coming into the season, bro, I was like, listen, everyone's like, how is Georgia going to be? I was like, I don't care. I got a natty. Yeah, like we won the national title. I don't give a crap. Like, and now you're just kind of pinching yourself, going, "Is this real? Like, is this because this is really fun."
Yeah, it is really fun, especially if you're a Georgia fan. And and speaking of young, I was talking to someone who's a kind of insider with the Georgia program, and he said, "Look, our defense, especially on the defensive side, they're young guys, and you're going to stack in now another top recruiting class on top of those young guys." He said, you wait for a year or two, and that defense is going to be even more monstrous than it is now. And that's pretty exciting for Georgia fans, isn't it?
Yeah, and the only thing I'll say about that is you got to find those. I would say yes, and I think what I said a second ago, and I'm on board. I think they're going to be really, really good. But to be great and to be sensational and to be national championship, you got to have those dominant players. Yeah. Jalen Carter's a freak. Yeah, like you don't have another one of those guys. Jordan Davis was a freak. You got to find that next guy in the trenches that can be a game changer, that can really dominate football games. Because that's what you got to have. You got to have game wreckers. You got to have guys that can get to the quarterback, get tackles for a loss, change you, get you behind the sticks, make the offenses paranoid about them. So I think they're going to be great. They're going to be really good. The level of dominance will depend on, can you find another guy that, can dominate the game, whether it's at corner, whether it's at, linebacker, whether it's at, defensive tackle, whether it's an edge player, whatever it is, you got to find those game changers, those high draft picks, those Trayvon Walkers, those Jordan Davises, those Jalen Carters, those type of guys.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe Bear Alexander in the middle. Maybe he'll grow into that. Maybe so. Just turning just quickly about Stetson Bennett. So much has been written about Stetson. We're also familiar with his story. This kid keeps delivering for the University of Georgia. He has his moments, but generally, he's just a very good quarterback statistically, stacking up even with all of the major, quarterbacks in the country. As I look at this, I keep telling people somebody's got to make a movie, especially if Georgia wins the national championship again. Just your overall thoughts about the amazing story. I would characterize it as an amazing story of Stetson Bennett.
Oh yeah, it's going to be a movie. It has to be a movie already.
I think you're going to have a part in it too. Now
that'd be great. That'd be great. I'm signing up for it right now. Yeah. I'm going to go produce it. I think it's just a great story for everybody, and it's a great story because Stetson Bennett. Everybody told him, that he couldn't do it, and everybody, and to the point, by the way, where I know for a fact that last year in camp, they told him, like, listen, there's a specific coach that told him, like, you probably should go transfer. You're not going to play this. You're not going to play here.
Yeah.
Like, didn't get reps last year in fall camp, barely took any reps. And then all of a sudden, JT gets hurt. You got a great defense. He can run a little bit. He can manage the game because he's played a little bit before and he's got experience. And, okay, we'll give him a try. Like, that's how it came about, which is kind of crazy to think about. So, but to have a kid that was a walk-on, to have a kid that, goes away, goes to junior college to go try to play and get experience and then comes back and then just, is forgotten about, is left from behind. Nobody believes in him. You know what? Nobody believes in him, but everybody forgot to tell Stetson to believe in himself.
That's true.
He didn't care. He doesn't give a rip what you say about him. And, it reminds me of David and Goliath in the Bible. They come to look for the new king, and there's 7 siblings, and his dad, Jesse puts out all the people, and he's like, and doesn't even put David in there.
Yeah.
And like, this guy's the little guy. He's the little runt. He's the the little one of the litter. Nobody really talks about him, talks about his stature, his physique, or anything like that. And then all of a sudden, you need to go slay a giant, and you bring in David. Like, and it's just, that's the story. It's just so powerful. And last week you saw him break ankles, which is so crazy, because I think you just forget how great of an athlete that kid is. I mean, he hits 21 miles an hour on the GPS pretty easily, and just makes plays. But I think his being doubted, I think his being told he was too small. Like, I just think he's a kid that, like, you saw him after he scored in the Tennessee game, throwing up the phone. He's got some swagger about him, and tell him he's not 6'4", 220 pounds with a rocket arm and running 4.3. I think he wouldn't believe you. I think he thinks he is.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I love him. I just love him. And, Georgia's going to ride his back, and hopefully they'll go again to the national championship. Now, Georgia has Kentucky coming up this coming Saturday, 3:30 in Lexington. And, Kentucky, listen, when Georgia goes on the road in the SEC, I'm one of those gloomy Gusses. I'm thinking, oh, no, we got to go on the road in that crowd, and they're going to get into it. But, Kentucky took it on the chin from Vanderbilt, of all people last Saturday in Lexington. So what do you anticipate about this game? On paper, it doesn't look like much of a game coming up for Georgia and Kentucky, does it?
No, it doesn't look like much of a game, but it's kind of it's the way it is. You got to rise to the challenge. Last week, Mississippi State was kind of that challenge too after a big week against Tennessee, and you just gotta love the maturity and the response. I mean, listen, aside from the closing, couple minutes of the first half, you played a really good game, and you definitely made some mistakes, obviously, and Kirby owned those. And, you gave a big special teams play that kind of changed it and kept the game closer than it should have been. But, it's a step in the maturity. You've already clinched in the SEC East, and you're playing the SEC championship game, and you're the number 1 team in the country, and everybody's talking about you. So there's definitely a lot of those things that involve leadership and guys in the locker room that make sure that they have their head on straight and makes it that they're focusing and respecting every opponent, because you got to respect them. But it is tough. It's tough when you have a team that just lost to Vanderbilt, and you have bad things to see on tape from a team. But again, that team comes in with nothing to lose.
Right. That
team comes in with everything to gain. I can go for it on 4th down. I can take chances. There's just a lot of things that you got to realize about this opportunity in this moment. Is Georgia better? Yeah. Should they win? Absolutely. It doesn't take any. A blind man knows that, but I think it's just a step in the maturity and the next steps of this Georgia team along the way.
And Kentucky's got some talent on offense and defense, so you can't overlook them, and you can't certainly take them for granted. Now you have Georgia and LSU in the SEC championship game. I believe this is the 5th time that Georgia and LSU have played each other in the SEC championship game. I think LSU has won the last 2, if I remember correctly. So what about this game? LSU, who would have thunk that at the beginning of the season? Everybody had their chips on Alabama, maybe Texas A&M, and that's a dumpster fire at Texas A&M. So what do you think about the SEC championship game coming up? Georgia and LSU. Georgia will be favored, but it sounds like a pretty good matchup.
Yeah, and everybody would have picked Georgia, but nobody would have picked LSU.
Right.
And especially, week 1, LSU loses to FSU, and it's an interesting. It was an interesting situation for Brian Kelly, an interesting start. Like me and my family, and all the stuff that went down with him.
Yeah.
So it's definitely, with the way they've turned it around, and Jaden Daniels, transfer quarterback from Arizona State's come in and really done well and really become a pivotal part of that offense. So his legs and his ability to scramble. They're young. They're young as can be. Starting a couple freshmen on the line, freshman tackles. They're building for the future. They're not building for the now. They just happen to, stumble into the SEC championship game. So kind of crazy to think about. They have the best player. If you want to talk about a player, the best young player in the country is Harold Perkins Jr.
Yes, what a game.
And that dude is an absolute stud. You turn on the tape and watch 40, and you're just like, oh, my gosh. Like, that's a mix between Von Miller and Micah Parsons, and you're just like, that is stupid what he's able to do. And so I think they have a lot of talent. They still got, Butte, and they still got a bunch of guys, with Ozolari and all these guys. They got a lot of talent. They're young. They're learning. They're growing. Again, not a lot to lose in that game, but they're going to be very much in the mix. As a two-loss team, a two-loss team has never made the college football playoff. It's never happened, but they're still very much in the mix. And I would think Brian Kelly thinks, if he looks at his team, he says they're ahead of schedule.
Yeah, I think so too. A great job by Brian Kelly this year. Now in the college football rankings, you have Georgia number 1, Ohio State, Michigan, and TCU. Don't really anticipate any changes of that this coming week from the rankings. But, you have Ohio State and Michigan meeting together in just a couple of weeks. So how do you, just your gut feeling about how this thing is going to shake out? I was thinking if Ohio State and Michigan have a close game, if
Yep.
like Ohio wins by 1 point or a field goal or something, or if vice versa, will either one of those drop out of the top 4? Do you anticipate 2 from the Big Ten in the Final Four or 2 from the SEC? Just your kind of gut feeling as you look out over the horizon about those teams that'll make the playoffs.
Well, it depends who loses, because Ohio State's out of conference is really good. They chose to play Notre Dame to open up. Michigan's out of conference is the worst in the country. Colorado State, Hawaii, and UConn. I mean, it's atrocious. They bought their way out of the UCLA, matchup, which would have been a top 25 matchup, which would have been a good out of conference. So if Ohio State wins, I think Michigan's gone. I think they're out. If Michigan wins, I think Ohio State's very much going to be in the picture. TCU is going to be interesting. Their defense played so great against Texas last week. Their offense didn't play great. Where do they stand? They go at Baylor. They play another team in the Big 12 championship game. So Are they a team that could be a one-loss team and still be in the mix? There's a lot to go down. I'm interested to see where Clemson is as a one-loss team, because everybody wrote them off, and then Oregon and UCLA lose. Yeah. So this is what happens late in the season, man. We find these losses out of nowhere that people aren't predicting, people don't think can happen, and that's the way it works. And so there's a lot of football left, but Tennessee's still sitting out there in the SEC, and they don't have to play another good team really, or play in the championship game. So they're very much in a good situation. So there's a lot of teams still up for grabs and still in this thing, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. It's a lot of fun. And, of course, when we go to the 12-team playoff system, then we'll be talking about bubble teams and the first team in and the first team out and things like that. So that'll change the dynamic completely. Well, quickly, tell me about the Pollock Family Foundation. Off the football field, out from ESPN, you do a lot of good things. Tell me about the Pollock Family Foundation.
Well, I appreciate you asking. You didn't have to do that. The Pollock Family Foundation is something that me and my wife started years ago, probably eight years ago or so. Listen, we are so blessed to be where we're at, and we don't deserve what we have. And, we're trying to find a way to make a difference in our Athens community, because we live right outside of Athens, and trying to help people that need a little bit of help in a time of need. And, we're all about physical exercise and activity. And so we build playgrounds, and we've done different things for different places here in Athens. And we're going to continue to do so, and just continue to pour into people and bless people that need us. PollockFamilyFoundation.com if you want to go look it up. And if you have any desire to support, we're doing a Give, Send, Go thing right now that we're raising money. If you you can enter in to win a Traeger grill, one of those really fancy Traeger grills. I don't know how to use them. I can't cook, but a signed helmet, a hover helmet. Like, we have all these different things. We partnered with Russ Tanner and Hope 139 and building houses for moms that are pregnant, that don't have anywhere to go. They don't have any other options, and trying to help them get on their feet. And, so we're definitely all in the Athens community, just trying to plug away, trying to make a difference, and trying to help those that really need help.
Wow, that's great. One more time, how can people find out more information? What's your website?
Well, you can find us at thePollockFamilyFoundation.com, and then you can find us all over social media too at the Pollock Family Foundation. We're on, Instagram and Twitter and all those. Great, and don't know how to use that well, but
yeah,
you can see us. You can see us on there, especially for if you want to get into the Give, Send, Go program, and donate, and then try to get a chance to win a signed helmet from me, from others, and then, the Traeger grill and stuff like that.
Wow, great. And of course, one of my favorite podcasts, and of course, I'm into podcasting. One of my favorite podcasts is Family Goals with David Pollock and Pastor Jay, Jonathan Howes, lead pastor of Greystone Church. You guys do a great job. And I got to tell you something. When you were interviewing Mark Rick, and he was talking about his heart attack and, how the Lord kind of dealt with him through that situation, I had goosebumps as big as watermelons on my arm. That's a great podcast. You enjoy doing that too, don't you?
Oh, I love it. We don't get paid for doing that. We're literally just trying to make an impact and trying to help people. Because listen, I can tell you, as a parent of a 14-year-old and a 12-year-old, I'm screwing it up on the regular. And we're just trying to find a way to pull together with other people and find ways that we can do better. Find ways to love our wives more. Find ways to love our kids more. Find ways to love our communities more. And the Family Goals with Pastor Jay has been such a fun podcast. And we've had Coach Rick, who was amazing, and Tony Dungy and Jeff Foxworthy, and this week's that just dropped was Ben Watson, who was phenomenal.
Oh yeah.
So we're just trying to support those and help those that might need a little advice when it comes to parenting, because Lord knows we need it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a parent of 3 and 2 grandkids, and I still don't know what I'm doing. So, I figure out you love them, you hug on them, you love them, and you try to help them the best you can. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to do a better job of listening and stop talking, because I'm a natural coach at heart and everything. Right.
I want to help them grow and learn. And I'm like, dude, just shut your mouth. How about you just listen? Just shut up, listen, sit back, and don't be a know-it-all. So if I can keep working on that and keep shutting my mouth, I think I'll be a lot better parent.
Well, good luck with that, because it hadn't worked for me yet either. Oh, man. Yeah. Well, it's been our joy to have David Pollock with us on our program today, doing a great job for ESPN. And listen, I know you get a lot of grief. The Georgia fans want you to be, like a homer for Georgia and a representative for Georgia. And you can't be that when you're on a platform like ESPN. But I think you do a great job. And you're just honest. You're a straight shooter, and I love that, and I appreciate that so much.
Thank you. And by the way, I did a speaking engagement with Kirby a couple years ago at the YMCA.
Yeah.
And I got asked that question, why do you pick against Georgia? And Kirby literally stuck his hand out. He's like, hey, bro, I got this one. And he said, let me ask y'all a question. When I was coaching at LSU in Alabama, were y'all whining about me trying to beat y'all? That was my job. My job was to coach and to try to beat Georgia. That's his job. His job is to talk about the games. And I was like, dude, can I just take you with me everywhere? And every time I get asked that question, Kirby, you just smack people around. But it is my job. I'll say this. It is hard, though, because the only team I cheer for all the time is Georgia.
Yeah.
And, I cheer for my picks otherwise. Aside from a couple schools, I don't like it that much. But no, I'm just kidding. I cheer for my picks, but I'm always cheering for Georgia. And last year, man, was so dang special. My son was there with me on the sidelines, and my family was there in the stands, and just to see the emotion and all that Georgia fans have been through to be able to accomplish something like that was so flipping amazing. Yeah. But my heart's always with Georgia, but I'm going to 100% be honest and tell the truth. And sometimes people don't like the truth. That's okay.
Yeah. You got to be that way. By the way, well, just quickly, when my wife actually joins me to watch game day, she says, how do they know all that stuff? Because you guys are always spouting out these stats and this team and that team. And I said, well, they probably have 2 or 3 people giving them, all the information they need, and they do the work themselves. It takes a lot of work to put on that program, right?
Oh yeah, but I mean, you get to choose. You can choose how much you want to put into it or not. It's just like everybody else's job. But the difference is, here's the thing that I figured out a long time ago. Like when I'm talking about Nebraska, those Nebraska fans know. You might be able to fool everybody else, but then Nebraska fans are paying attention to their team every week. Like Georgia fans, they know. Like they know what's going on with their squad and who's playing well, who's not. So you better know your craft. And, I take an exceptional amount of pride in trying to be a person that always studies, always watches. Every Saturday, I got to sacrifice some family time, and I got to watch ball. And I know we all do that anyways, which is cool. But I'm like, it's my job, honey. Yeah. This is my job. Like,
I got you.
And then when you put tapes together and you learn and you talk to coaches and so you definitely got to put a lot of time into it. But it's no different than anybody else's job. You put a lot of time into your work and you see the results. But there's a lot of college football teams and. There's a lot of teams to study and players to study, and sometimes it gets, dangerous in that small brain of mine, and I'll misspeak and say something stupid. So it happens.
Hey, it does that. If you're going to be in front of the public, it's going to happen, right? Where will you guys be this coming Saturday? Where will game day be?
Bozeman, Montana.
Oh, bless your heart. Oh my goodness.
It is going to be cold. Oh. That is so show. But these are the best shows. Honestly, These are the best shows, man. We do the North Dakota States and the JMUs are the ones that really, really stick out in your head of, the cool ones you do that just nobody really knows about, but you go to we went to, this year we went to Jackson with Dion, and you just do different things and different atmospheres and it's going to be cold. I mean, 6 o'clock local start time. I don't know how many pair of long johns I got, bro, but I'll have them all on. But it'll be cool to see Bozeman, Montana, and see Montana State.
Yeah, that'll be. I'm sure that's a beautiful venue. I'm sure it's going to be absolutely beautiful when the sun comes up and you can see it. Actually, I'm sure it'll be a beautiful venue. Well, David, we'll be watching ESPN Game Day. Thank you so much for joining us today on Dawgs on Demand and Facebook, Instagram, and on YouTube as well. It's been our joy to have you, and we hope to have you back with us again soon. Okay.
No problem. Thank you very much.
Dawgs on Demand would like to thank Southeast Mortgage, the official home loan lender of the Georgia Bulldogs, for sponsoring our program today. When the time comes to finance or refinance your home, make the smart choice and get your home loan from Southeast Mortgage. Your friends at Southeast Mortgage are ready to help you. Visit southeastmortgage.com/UGA today for more information. Be sure to visit Dawgs on Demand on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and our great interactive website, dogsondemand.com. Join us for our next program as we keep you up to date with the latest sports news from the University of Georgia and more. Until then, be safe and go Dogs.